Thank you so much to our sponsor, Electoral Alliance. As a Local 26 union partner, Electoral Alliance provides a dedicated team of experts to support and advocate for their members. Continuous education keeps skills sharp. Join Electoral Alliance, where excellence, empowerment, and a bright future come together.
Welcome to the fourth episode of the Build Your People podcast with Kathy Humm. I am your co-host, Jenn Dewees, and I am also the president of the Maryland Center for Construction, Education, and Innovation, MCCI. At MCCI, our mission is to inspire, educate, and connect a diverse population to careers in the built environment. With me, as always, is our podcast co-host, Kathy Humm, HR professional and founder of NTP HR LLC. Hi, Kathy. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Jen? Good to see you.
Great. Happy National Apprenticeship Week.
Yeah. What a great week.
Absolutely. And for our viewers who are watching us on video, you see that Kathy and I have a guest today, Chuck Scarlata. Chuck is the Field Operations Director for Mobile Video Guard. Before we dive into our conversation, Chuck, why don't you give us a moment to introduce yourself? How long have you been in business of recruitment and retention within the construction space, and what's your own personal experience?
Sure. Yeah, no, thanks. I'm excited to be with you guys. And just a quick background. I used to be in the education system for 15 years and came over with Mobile Video Guard coming up on 3 years now. And so a lot of these skills I had carried over from the education system in terms of recruitment and developing career paths. And so getting to build a team over here at Mobile Video Guard has been exciting to watch the growth and to be strategic in our planning and make it a place that we're excited for our employees to call home, hopefully for a good long time. So it's been a great journey so far.
That's awesome. Thanks, Chuck. So today we're going to be talking about defining career paths and putting an emphasis on learning and development in the recruitment and retention strategy. As we've talked and mentioned several times throughout our podcast, it is crucial for employee recruitment and retention for there not only to be defined career paths for advancement but for employers to invest in the growth of their employees through learning and development. It is something that specifically Gen Z absolutely cares about when they are choosing who to work for. So Kathy, I know you invited Chuck today because of the work that their company is doing with you in regards to these things, learning and development and career pathing. So before we get into the specifics of what Mobile Video Guard is doing, can you share your perspective on the significance of investing in learning and development of the employees for a company's overall success, and then why you believe having defined career paths is crucial in our workplace today?
Sure. So as we've spoken on previous podcasts, the workforce is shrinking, and companies have to do everything they can to attract top talent and to retain that talent. And you hit it spot on. The Gen Zs and the millennials, everything I've read, one of the biggest things they want to know, when I start with your company in 1 year, what does it look like? In 3 years, in 5 years, what's the career path look like? And so it's so critical. The baby boomers are retiring, the older generation's retiring. So we have to meet these younger people where they are and provide them what they're looking for. And not only do we write it down and have a document or a standard operating procedure, but we should have visuals and show it at the recruiting stage as well as retention when you're talking with your employees on a regular ongoing basis through performance management, check-ins, whatever, and talking about this is the path and making sure they're still on path. So it's critical. It's critical for recruiting and retention.
Absolutely. So with that, Chuck, I know that you've been working with Kathy on developing career paths in your learning development platforms and everything. What has been like, what was the reason behind Mobile Video Guard deciding to do this work? And then what has been your like strategic approach to implementing it?
Yeah, so it all cropped up organically. So when I came in, just a quick backstory: our field team consisted of two employees. We had a gentleman installing out in the field, and we had one building our equipment inside the warehouse. And so very quickly, when I came on, we started to just grow in contracts. There's just a need there that needed to be met. And so, I started to hire a few here and there. We merged with another company, and before I knew it, we had several people working with us. We had 12 additional, almost overnight, field technicians. So we had merged with this other company, which I can say that maybe this is fast forward a little bit, but they're all still with us, which is a good sign of the culture that we've started to develop. So it was really a needs-based decision to start really intentionally focusing on the career path. We had employees of all ages, from mid-60s down to 19, 20 years old. I just have a core belief that if you're coming to work every day, you want to be given tools to then, if you so choose down the road, to leave and be marketable, to be able to be hired and be attractive as a candidate for any other job position, make a lateral move. So we want to invest and be transparent with our employees. I feel like, our leadership values that as a critical thing. So we like to just see people grow. So I just really believe that developing a career path is essential to attracting talent, whether it's specific to a generation, but anybody and everybody needs and appreciates that security that we are investing in them in their future career. And that's really what started. I don't know if I got the second part of your question there, but it really was a needs based. We were just trying to keep up, honestly.
It honestly makes sense when you think about, you say that you value transparency as an organization. Having a defined career path is like transparency, at the very basic level of hiring somebody. So that kind of leads me to my next question is like, in what ways do you ensure that your career paths and the learning and development that you're doing are reflecting and reinforcing the culture that you want to cultivate within your organization? What are you doing with Kathy to make sure that happens?
So our first step, again, I was very used to, I came as a government employee. So I came out of college, I could look at the salary scale. I could tell if you were a Unit 1 teacher, how much you would make after 5 years with your bachelor's. Mm-hmm. I could fast forward to 25 years and see what I would make as a Unit 1 teacher with my doctorates. And it was very predictable. I could see the salary scale. I could see what I was working for. And that to me was very attractive. It kept me going. It kept me wanting to pursue self-improvement. And so immediately, Kathy's been awesome to work with and very as excited as I am, if not more, to put this thing together. And so I would say tangibly what we started to do is we just assessed what needs the company has. We started to see what our clients are asking for, what's going to ensure a quality product. And so we had a lot of field technicians, a lot of crossover, kind of everybody was doing everything. We didn't have a whole lot of definition. And so our first step was to define different departments that were needed. We had different things that were needing to be addressed in terms of programming, in terms of field installation, warehouse assembly, and there's a shipping operation component. And all of these things really just required that we kind of splinter off into different departments. So it started there. But even within that, I kind of went through from the beginning to end. I was an installer myself. I was a builder myself. So I knew what the job entailed. But as we kept growing, we needed to hand off supervision of these different departments. So I think one of the most impactful things that we have done, Kathy and I, was define the leadership and how that would break out across different tiers. And that's what started to formulate. You come in as a field tech 1, you add some more education, and you add some more safety requirements of our larger clients in terms of OSHA, OSHA certifications, and then so that moved us into a second tier, tech 2s, and we developed our team leadership. And then beyond that, we found we had a need for a program manager role, and even an engineer role. And so it just started to shape, and it continues, I'd say, at least every 2 to 3 months to shift a little bit here and there in terms of how we refine those roles. And so that's the first and probably the most impactful thing that we've done. The second, which we're currently working on, is salary schedule. And we can talk more about that. But the right there with it, our third initiative has been developing an educational partnership with IECC, and that's been really good. We're in the talks right now, and we're trying to figure out how to develop apprenticeships for our technicians, and we're very excited about the potential there. That kind of goes hand in hand. Again, coming from Anne Arundel County Schools, I started to visit CAT North and CAT South because I felt like those students, so it's a great pipeline for bringing them into our business. It goes hand in hand what I was doing. I was a program manager in Anne Arundel County Schools for a program called AVID, and so it's college and career emphasis. And so I was trying to tap into some of my connections through Anne Arundel County, and those really are the 3 drivers that we've been working on, Kathy and I together.
And I would just like to add, we didn't look just this year. Chuck and I would, in our conversations, it was, what does the business look like in 3 to 5 years? And let's build out career paths in those positions. And then it's a matter of looking at your workforce and Chuck knowing what they can do, placing them in the roles that are on the blank, no name career path with just the titles. And it's okay if you have a blank spot, on the, no name in a particular position. And then he had conversations with each one of them and shared with them how we restructured, and this is where you are to get to here. This is what you need to do as far as training and other things. And eventually that'll get filled out over time, but we looked more futuristic as opposed to just looking today.
So hearing, all of this is obviously you guys have some amazing leadership in place that is thinking strategically about your growth and the way, and honestly, music to my ears to hear that you've, you're in the process of developing an apprenticeship program with IEC Chesapeake. An apprenticeship is strategic planning for growth. When so many employers are hiring, 3 to 5 years experience, somebody that's been trained somewhere else, who also comes with the higher paycheck that being from training somewhere else. So I absolutely love that you are embracing the idea of bringing in someone green and training them how you want to do the work. You guys are definitely thinking differently than a lot of construction and built environment firms out there. So the idea that you want to train them, you're investing all of this time and money into creating your own career paths and learning development. It makes sense. And it's really awesome to see that you've included apprenticeship along with that and making sure that, and I'm hoping that IEC has let you know that there are tax benefits that come along with those, with implementing that apprenticeship program as well, that you wouldn't get just by providing internal L&D on your own. So that's awesome. Very cool. So with that, I'm hearing, obviously you're in the trenches and you're living this now. Have you seen, I know you're still obviously making changes as it goes along, but have you seen any success in providing this, that maybe in your employee satisfaction or retention since you've been working on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the strongest marker, other than feedback I have just with with my check-ins with everybody is the retention rate. In fact, the hiring was really an easy process, to be honest with you, because once we started getting this formulated, like I said before, we merged with another company. We'll purchase another company. The only person who's not still with us was on a 2-year contract, fulfilled his contract, and everybody else from that company is still with us. So to me, that's a marker of a positive outlook on the trajectory we have going forward. That's been very reassuring, and we work to that end. We want our employees to be happy, to be growing, and see a future with us. And I just want to go back to what Kathy just said. Was really, it is that 10-year outlook that is driving all of this decision. Just from a business standpoint, I'm not sure. One thing that's kind of really been a strong belief among our whole leadership team is that whatever we're doing, is this reproducible? Is this encouraging a healthy environment? Could this be taken as a model and done somewhere else? And that's kind of what we're striving for. The feedback just one-on-one is very appreciative. That I see that they recognize this as an investment in them, and so our younger employees coming in, a lot of them are coming from our own internal network. So not only are we retaining them, but they're being recommended to others from other careers, and they're coming over and staying here. So that's really exciting to us. And again, I wish I had some more, empirical things to kind of throw at you, but really, honestly, that's a telltale sign.
It's great because like I'm sure Kathy knows the stats, like the average voluntary turnover rate's like 27%. But when I hear, I think the apprenticeship turnover rate, 90% of apprentices stay with an employer 3 to 5 years post completion of the apprenticeship program. So to see that you're just beginning this process and it's already had such a major impact on your retention rate is, proof's in the pudding kind of thing. It's pretty awesome to hear that. While you, I guess, haven't been doing it long enough to have the actual stats, to hear that you've only lost one employee who would have lost anyway because they were a contract is pretty amazing. And it's exciting to check. It'll be exciting to check back once you've, in 5 years, when you've grown even more and seen what those rates are, as you've implemented everything you've been working on with Kathy.
That's actually a really cool idea to add in a exit interview, the apprenticeship piece. And are we retaining those folks as we build this out? It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So Kathy, how are you guys working on measuring the impact of the learning and development initiatives that you're working on with Mobile Video Guard?
So like Chuck said, we're in the infancy stage of getting this up and running. And I'm a firm believer in employee engagement. So one of my favorites is the Gallup 12 questions, and then adding to that. So you could take the 12 and you can add a question about apprenticeship or, specifically to the career paths or learning and development, and then gauge the engagement over the course of the year. You could do that twice a year. You could do it annually. And what happens is you can track and trend those questions and then dive deep on the ones that are falling short of, say, 4 out of 5, or you look at the ones that are much higher, 4.5 or 5, and we would consider those a success.
Okay. So with that, while you've been working through this together, have you all encountered any obstacles in creating and maintaining the clear career path? Time. Right. Yeah, it sounds like, if you're changing it every few months and figuring it out together.
Just time to actually put it together, right?
Right. Absolutely. I would say that kind of hits the nail on the head. it's the time to put it together thoughtfully. So you're not revisiting it again. You really want to even look forward to planning for, 2 and 3 years out. But the, the low voltage space for us specifically is a little bit of the Wild West. It's a little bit of an undefined territory. So we're running into that, but we're also seeing some wins there. And I think that, I'm excited to see what the outcomes are and see what we can do to make sure we have the resources and, hiring to that end and making sure that we have a consistent ability to provide that to them in terms of, low voltage certification and putting them through. But yeah, I mean, talking through all the benefits of what it is with IECC has been great. And we're totally on board. We're just working through a few little issues here and there, technical issues, but.
And
for those
IECC is
listening,
one.
I
I was just going to say IECC is one of those very few organizations that offers the low voltage in the area. And one of the other things we talked about, Chuck, was maybe tapping into manufacturers of some of the equipment that you purchase and possibly having them come in and do some training as it relates to low voltage.
Yeah, so we actually did. You came around with that with one of our providers, so Wes, Ramtech, and so we partnered with them. They've come in and put on some workshops internally for us. We're going to pursue that with all of our other component providers and then develop trainings internally. So we're trying to capture a lot of this training internally to make sure that everybody on the team, because there is still so much crossover, is well versed and can prove that they've gone through some of this. So we're mid-cycle in developing those trainings. We have quite a few done. And so once we finally get to that evaluation system and we're going to roll it all out at the same time. And we're really excited. We have a January 1st deadline to kind of present this to our employees. We've been talking about it for the past 4 to 6 months, and everybody's kind of anticipating what is this going to look like and what is my trajectory and put it in action. So
I love that you guys are, using a cross section of both external and internal resources when it comes to educating your employees. For those people that don't know what IECC is, it's the Independent Electrical Contractors of Chesapeake. So it's the Maryland chapter of Independent Electrical Contractors, and they are the largest apprenticeship provider in the state of Maryland right now for electrical and low voltage. But I love there's obviously all kinds of curriculum providers out there. There's specific platforms that you may be using. There could be online softwares and systems for that. But then even your community college could potentially have something. I'm not saying for you, but just for anybody listening. I pretty much, if it could, especially in the built environment, if there is something's apprenticeable, it exists in Maryland and anywhere that there's a registered apprenticeship, and there's absolutely no need to recreate the wheel and create your own. I think there's obviously a lot of benefit to creating company specific training when it comes to like, how does mobile video guard do XYZ? But I love the idea that you've got both. I would imagine it makes it a lot easier, especially when you said like low voltage was not something that you guys are 100% familiar or didn't already have the knowledge in-house. Like, to partner with an external organization makes it a lot more manageable for a business to provide that curriculum rather than trying to like create it on your own. Because like we said earlier, time is the biggest hurdle to get.
Yeah, it's really cool to see this develop. A lot of companies in the construction space, it's sink or swim. You hire somebody, you throw them out in the field, and you mentor them with a seasoned construction professional, whether it be in the type of industry that Chuck's in, or plumbing or general contracting, and that works really well. But when you couple that with some technical classroom style training and manufacturer training on how the equipment works and what are the ABCs of the electrical components within this particular unit, whatever it may be. It really gives a full, robust training program to the individual. And like Chuck said, it's super cool to be able to package that. And once it's all set, then they can really take off and they can hire people, put them in the training, and it'll just be second nature to them.
And I would imagine it sells itself to the future employees too, because especially if it's an apprenticeship, you've got obviously every company and every job out there has on the job training, but that curriculum and then that certification that comes, right? Getting their journey person's license makes them incredibly marketable for any future employment. Like if they want to move and they're not in Maryland anymore and their spouse or significant others move into California, they could take that apprenticeship and that license, that journey person license with them, which to me, I think would also sell itself. You obviously don't want the person to leave, and we know statistically they won't, but it's pretty cool and definitely sets itself apart from regular on-the-job training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like being upfront about that was a great point. I mean, being upfront about that we want you guys to be marketable. We want you guys to be, we're investing in you as an individual, and because we recognize life changes and everything else. And I don't know. I think we lay down that worry of, will we retain this person? I think it's just going to happen naturally because they're going to realize they're in a great environment. And so that's a strategic decision for us to invest in them. And it takes some skin in the game for them as well. That's a huge commitment for them.
Absolutely.
And so when they make that commitment, they value it. They value it more when they know they have a little skin in the game, and then it's a reciprocal relationship going forward. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I will say there is one other, I think it's a great place to discuss this actually, is one other, I guess, challenge in all of that. And that's, when we push this out to the new employee, maybe they're young, maybe they're 19, maybe they're 20, they really don't know exactly what they want to do, but we onboard them, we can get them trained in-house. One of the things that I'm really thinking through, so selfishly, man, I would love it if everybody went through and got a certification, right? I would love it just for the company. I think it's a good personal decision in the life of an employee, just to be, while you're working in this field, get certified, have this so you can take it with you. But it's what do we do in terms of a policy? Is this something that all new employees are going to go through? Is this something where we leave a lot of choice? Is it something where we grandfather certain people in because we're still a new company and we merge with someone else? So just being completely transparent, I've had that conversation with several people, and because you can see from the client side what a value, man, all these techs are certified and they're coming onto my site.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks volumes of us as a company. But the demand and the reality of being able to require that from an employee. So we're kind of balancing that, and we're trying to be, wise as we walk forward with it.
Yeah, I think that I always put decisions like that in two buckets: cost and risk to the leadership team. So what's it going to cost to get everybody certified? And the risk, well, is it going to position us for more jobs because we are certified, or are we going to lose those jobs because we aren't certified and the next company down the road is? So it's a strategic decision to decide, do we have everybody certified or not? And then I wanted to make a point back to what you were talking about and being transparent. People are going to leave companies. The hope is that you keep and retain a large portion of your workforce. But I've always been of the mindset that when you're talking with employees, you want to help them build out where they are, or help them with a career path to promote them, or help them find something else, whether it's in the company or outside of the company, and just being very open about that. Because, there are in the construction space, there may be superintendents, as an example, who that's all they want to be. They don't want to become the general superintendent. They don't want to become a PM. So help them build out where they are to the best of their capabilities, or move them up, or find another seat on the bus, internal or external, and help them with that.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask, like, how would you recommend that somebody involve their employees in shaping their own learning experiences and career pathing?
And what you were just saying, Kathy, I just have to say, like, that is such a huge part of what Sean espouses as well. We say that all the time when we're hiring somebody. We want this to be a good fit for you and a good fit for us. And so whether that means, and we've kind of seen that play out naturally, where during our conversations, during our check-ins, our quarterly check-ins, we're having guys tell us, man, I'm really happy here. Hey, I'm ready for the next challenge. What is it? And so maybe they're more of a programmer, maybe they're more of a field guy, but we have a ton of different needs, and we want them to be happy where they are, because if they're not, their performance suffers. So I really think that it's just great to move them and tool them with, where their interests lie as well. So, it's a give and take between what the company needs, what the interests of the employee is as well, and trying to find a good marriage, a good fit for that.
Yeah.
So you think so? A quarterly check-in, career conversations. What else should someone be using to help employees figure that out? Anything?
Well, when you're talking about the construction space, it's a challenge because you're dealing with budgets and schedules. And if you get so finite with, we meet every week or we meet every month, it just gets to be a challenge. So at the minimum, I recommend that companies do quarterly check-ins, but you certainly can do more than that. And there's a lot of on the fly conversations that are happening, I'm sure, Chuck, with your people that could be, classified as coaching moments or career path conversations. So I strongly encourage the quarterly. If you can do more than that kudos to you.
And Kathy's recommended, I think I'm excited because we're, like we said before, we're kind of developing this now, but the questions that she has for these driving the quarterly conversations are key. And I think it's just, it's like anything, right? How do you spend that time during that quarterly conversation? And splitting that time between focus on their goals versus what we're seeing and what we need, and giving them honest and meaningful feedback, and then taking that all into account. But Kathy's recommended some great structure to those. And I'm looking forward to really honing in on what questions to ask that drive that conversation to make it meaningful. Yeah.
No, I love that, because honestly, if an employee gives notice to you because they're leaving and you are blindsided, you have not been doing your job as an employer to understand what their frustrations, their anything like that. So I love that opportunity for feedback. Absolutely. And then you obviously can't make everyone happy all the time, but I think a lot of times just acknowledging someone's frustrations can keep them along. And saying what you're planned to do, even if you can't do something right then and there, what you're planning to do to address that can often help, because very rarely does somebody leave just for more money. They're leaving a boss.
They're usually leaving a manager, sometimes the culture. Yeah.
And so when they feel a part of the conversation, and like you said, it may not be happening tomorrow, but if you're letting them know the plan, this is where we're heading, it's like enough. Like, all right, I'm not in the dark. I know where this thing's going. That's huge.
Absolutely. I love that. So what would you say that what are you expecting the impact to have on the overall success of Mobile Video Guard, of these initiatives that you're working on? What's the end goal?
I think obviously we want to, employee retention's huge. But predictability, even internally, from what we've got to work with, which leads to conversations around efficiency. So if we have the right people in the right seats, then for us, we understand how we can most optimize that person in their skill set, and that just translates into client satisfaction. So, if you have the wrong person in the wrong seat, for us, what we've seen, we're quick to move them after conversations, internally with them, because in the end, it's always the client. It's always the client who gets the the real impression of how we operate as a company. It's kind of hard to hide, so it's that's what we hope the effect will be, is increased efficiency, satisfied employees who know where the company is going and are bought into the mission. So yeah, it's such a multi-pronged approach to getting there. But,
and then I think about, process consistency, efficiency, like you had mentioned, which leads to client satisfaction, which ultimately leads to increased profitability for the organization. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around. If you have this in place, it's a recipe for success.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I meant to ask earlier, and I didn't. We talked a lot about like the curriculum providers and where you're getting that. What kind of, if any, technology platforms are you using to deliver the career pathing, the curriculum, any of the internal curriculum, anything like that?
So we mainly rely on just a program called Trainual, and Trainual is it's a pretty good fit for what we need. I mean, it allows us to obviously document all our internal processes, and then assign those to the correct departments, and then measure whether or not those employees have gone through the training and have shown proficiency in whatever internal process we wanted them to get a hold of. And then it helps us just, from an organizational standpoint, we house our org chart in there, and job responsibilities, et cetera. And then partnered with Paycor, which Kathy helped with the entire onboarding process. I barely scratched the surface with use of that, but Kathy can probably speak more to how Paycor could be used. But
yeah, just tying in a performance management process where you can do your quarterly check-ins and make a little bit more robust annual review process, and it's all automated within the system. That's the next step. We've just created the onboarding, the applicant tracking system. We implemented that, and the onboarding within the system. Now it's performance management. And so the field will be the first guinea pig of putting their performance management check-ins and annual review into the system. So super excited.
I love that. Kathy, we'll have to talk and see
Yeah.
how we might be able to use that over here at MCCI as we grow as well. That's awesome. I really love that. So I guess before we finish up, is there any final thoughts on the process, and any tidbits for anyone listening?
I think the hardest thing for people to do is take that first step, and because it's overwhelming. Chuck can vouch for that. There's so many moving parts, but to reach out to someone like Chuck, who's going through the process, and what were your steps involved, to reach out to somebody like myself to help you structure a whole career path and learning and development strategy for your organization. But just to take that first step, maybe read a couple of books. And a lot of times in my business, I've read books and I've implemented something, and it might work, it might not. Maybe you tweak it and it gets a little better. But we really need to keep up with the times and keep up with the new generations and what they're looking for. And if you stick, your head in the sand and you're not willing to change a process that has worked for you for 20 years, it's going to be a challenge for you to remain successful in the years to come. Would you agree, Chuck?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, and I think the biggest thing is it just comes down to forward thinking, like you're saying. I mean, it comes down to, are you planning for your future? Are you staying, 10 steps ahead? And are you continuing those conversations on a regular basis? Because I think sometimes it's very easy in the busyness, kind of going back to what you were saying, Kathy, it's very easy in the busyness of just managing contracts and managing the over business and processes to not carve out intentional time with your admin team, and with all your people on a regular, predictable basis to then flesh these things out and stay ahead of, like you were saying earlier, Jen, if somebody leaves and you're not aware of why they are leaving, that's a problem, right? That's indicative of we're not meeting enough. We're not understanding the culture and keeping a pulse on things. So I think it really comes down to that, just being forward looking, keeping a pulse, and being open and honest with those communication lines with everybody, having a two-way conversation, and then making decisions that need to be made, really.
I love it. I think that's a good place to end because that actually ties into what our next episode is going to be about. So, obviously we've helped our people plan their career paths and we're working on that. Our next episode, we will be talking about creating and implementing a strategic plan for your organization so that you have a plan to grow, how to sustain that growth, and make sure it's going in the right direction. So thanks for listening to the Build Your People podcast with your co-hosts, Kathy Humm and Jenn Dewees. We hope you enjoyed our 4th episode as we continue to tackle the construction industry's biggest HR issues. If any of our listeners have a topic or question they'd like us to cover, please share them in the comments. Please check out all the links and resources in the show notes and follow us on social media. That's all for this episode, folks. Thanks so much, Chuck, for joining us.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Kathy. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Chuck.